This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Emergency physician Dr. Melissa Yee has offered up her latest medical mystery. This one is entitled The Shapes of Wrath. Oh, I love that title. It's the latest Dr. Hope C. thriller. Melissa joins us via Skype from Ontario. Hi, Melissa.
Hey, how's it going?
Just tickety-boo. Thanks very much for being on the program. Again, I love the title, The Shapes of Wrath.
Thank you. I was actually inspired. There's another book, well, I'm sure you know, the one called The Grapes of Wrath.
Oh, absolutely.
I came across The Crepes of Wrath. And I was like, you know what? I can play with it too.
So this one deals with a demonic surgeon, a haunted hospital, and a doctor caught between them. Now, this touches on something that I've often said. You know, when you talk about ghosts, so to speak, people always talk about a house is haunted because it's where a ghost died. And that's why I always think, wouldn't a hospital be the most haunted place on the planet?
Yeah, it would be pretty high density. That's true.
So what is the story, The Shapes of Wrath, about?
So in this one, Dr. Hope C., who's a resident doctor, so she's finished her MD, she finished medical school, but she's doing postgraduate training in family medicine. And this time she's on general surgery, which, you know, surgeons can be kind of difficult. But what she didn't expect was just how difficult this one is, plus a ghost. So her hands are full this time, even before she finds a dead man.
Now, as I said to you the last time we spoke a couple of years ago, you got to write what you know, and you are an emergency physician yourself. Have you ever come across spirits or ghosts, or, for the lack of a better term, a demonic surgeon?
So I've been lucky that my surgeons have been pretty nice. No one's perfect, of course, including myself and other specialties. But for spirits, I guess I just try to keep an open mind. So, for example, one of my friends who is a pediatric subspecialist, she said that sometimes she would wake up in the middle of the night and say, "Oh, my patient died." And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yes. If I was especially close to them, that would happen." And more than once, you know. So people will have experiences that you can't always explain with science, and I'm agnostic in general, so I'm agnostic about this too. I don't say, "Oh wow, that's incredible, that, you know, I have to write this down verbatim," and I also don't say, "Well, that's ridiculous, you need to get your head checked." I just say, "Interesting," and then I like to write stories about it.
You obviously have a lot of fans. You've had several books out now, and I'm sure most of your fans are probably not in the medical profession. But what's it like for people who know you that are colleagues? Do they see a lot of what you see in the books? Do they actually maybe even see themselves or situations that they're familiar with? Because I'm sure you draw on some of those situations to flesh out the books that you write.
So I have to say, I have some excellent nurse friends who are very supportive and who are good readers, because that's the thing. Like, I have a lot of doctor friends, but not all of them have time. The ones who do are very special. So do they see and do they judge? Probably the ones who do judge, they don't really talk to me about it. They're just like, "That's Melissa's weird thing, and we won't discuss it. We'll just sign over the patients." But the ones who do like it are happy to talk, and those are my people. So it's a good way to eliminate the unwanted dross. You know, like I remember reading the 20-something's Guide to Life or something like that, and she was saying she liked to show off her scars and talk to people about their scars, and if they were grossed out by it, she's like, "Well, that's a good way to make sure that they're the wrong person." And so I guess for me, if they don't respect my writing, then they're just playing for the wrong team.
Now, everyone who goes through life has their what-if moments, whatever the career they're in. Do you take your what-if moments and put them in books?
Yeah, I mean, because I only take the really crucial moments. Because, like, you know, I have obviously had lots of people be like, "Oh, you should put this in a book," or, "Oh no, now she's going to write this in the book." But I'm like, I said straight out in my book, The Most Unfeeling Doctor in the World, I'm like, unless it's really funny or really terrible, I probably won't mention it. So if there's a good what if moment, it may make it into my book or into a medical post column, which may eventually make itself into a book as well. That's the beautiful thing about fiction.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is your ninth book with Dr. Hope C. Is that correct?
No, it's 10th.
10th.
So there are 9 books in the first series, the medical crime series. And this is the first book of the 7 Deadly Sins series. So I've started a new series with Hope, because in this one there is the paranormal element with ghosts. And there will be one book for each deadly sin. And this one is wrath or anger. I wanted to write about the 7 deadly sins. I thought that was the perfect thing. And then that way you would know the length of the series as well. And in this case, I really enjoy just diving in and putting Hope head first into surgery, which I loved. When I started surgery, I was like, oh no, I hope they don't kill me. But the surgical nurse, when she came to the orientation, she brought a box of Timbits, which is like donut holes. And I was like, oh, I think I'm going to like it here because everybody was so smiley and happy, actually. People who go into surgery really love it and are having a good time and often are saving people's lives. So there is that, as well as a few hideous personalities. And I do try to make it clear, and actually a few surgeons who pre-read the book were upset about the portrayal of Dr. Vrack, this demonic, evil, worst surgeon in the world kind of thing, because they said, this is a stereotype and I have to fight against this every day. So I try to make clear that it's fiction, and the vast majority of surgeons are awesome, as are all the other surgeons in the book, basically. But there's just this one guy, and of course, Hope has to be assigned to him. And he is racist, sexist, homophobic, everything you could imagine. You have to put up with that, as well as the inhumane hours and demands of surgery. So it just all came together in a good crucible to make an excellent, I think, book.
Since you are doing a series and you have this protagonist who you've had for quite a while, when you're sitting down to write, do you go through situations where you say, oh, God, I'm going to write this, and then you say, no, I don't think that fits, but I'm going to save it for another book?
I do that all the time. So I'm very picky about what happens with Hope, and I read a lot of real crimes, not actually true crime books, but articles about what's happened. I try to figure out what's a good story and how would this fit. So, for example, for the next book, which is Gluttony, I'm like, food and dying. How am I going to put that together? So I look for inspiration and I'll start to write about it. And it can seem good for a while and then be like, that just doesn't fit. Or, I don't feel like it. Like, just for example, I went to a restaurant where there's no light. You might have heard of it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You eat in the dark. And so and I've always wanted to go there. And finally I went because I was like, if you're going to eat and have gluttony, like, this completely dark restaurant would be a great place to have things go down. And I started off the book there, and then I ended up deciding I didn't want it there. And one of the beta readers was like, oh, but there was so much turmoil. Like, why wouldn't you stay with that? And I said, I just need a light book after Wrath. So I wanted Hope to be able to eat and have a good time before all the shenanigans start. So sometimes you just have to make a decision, also even just based on your mood and your mental health. And it may not be what other people are expecting, but that's just where you need to go.
I've often asked this of writers who write a series of books. Would you like to see this turned into a television series or a film of some kind? Your protagonist, Dr. Hope C?
Yeah, I mean, the ideal is if they do it and do a fantastic job and you make tons of money and the books sell perfectly and, everything turns out well. I think it's pretty common to option things now without necessarily going forward. And I am a control freak. So what I have done actually is experiment with theater. Hope is going to be on stage in 2024. It's the third book, Terminally Ill. I was the one who chose the play and wrote the script. And because this is through Tactics and Undercurrents, as well as Underdevelopment Festival. And their challenge is they want something that you would not be able to put on during the Fringe Festival, like something that doesn't fit the parameters of a normal festival. And so I was like, okay, let's try my craziest book where it's underwater and somebody has to drown and there's an escape artist dressed as Elvis Presley. And afterwards, one of the adjudicators was like, that was the strangest application we ever got, basically. And I was like, oh, but you said you wanted something challenging. And she said, yeah, normally people just say that's over 60 minutes long. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be throwing a lot of different things at you, including like immersive elements, and Elvis is an aerialist and all sorts of things. So you can look for that in February 2024.
Excellent. Now, since you are starting a new series with Dr. C, with this new book, for those who haven't read your previous books, do they need to go back to the beginning to be able to enjoy this new series, or can they start with this book?
You can start with this book. Every book I always write so that it can be read independently, because there's always a crime and it's always solved in each novel, so that you don't have to have the headache of going back to the first. Although a lot of readers are very organized and they love to start at the beginning, in which case, bless you, you can get reading now. But if you're like me, and I'm like, if you're in emergency medicine or, OB-GYN or family medicine or something where you're just surgery, you're just used to jumping in and you don't have the background, then, just go for it. And especially if you love surgery or you love ghosts or something, there are always people who have never read Hope before who just start with the latest book, and they seem to enjoy them.
Well, the latest one is The Shapes of Wrath. It's another Dr. Hope C. mystery. And Melissa, thank you very much for being on the program with us once again, and continued success in all that you do.
Oh my gosh, right back at you. Thank you so much.
Melissa Yee, author of The Shapes of Wrath, which is the 10th book so far with her protagonist, Dr. Hope C., in a thriller series. You can go to my website at thestuffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0705, and you'll find the link to Melissa's site, plus links to either Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can order her book directly.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuph is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.